Welcome to my channel. I hope you joined me on our last video when we made a paper pumpkin storage. And I found all of those paper pumpkin pieces in my stash. And so I thought, I'm going to use them. Now that I have them, I'm going to use them. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make kind of a junk journal using these paper pumpkin pieces. And so what I've done is, again, I love this paper pumpkin leftover storage. If you did not join me for that, I will put a link in the description about where you can watch this video, because it has become a lifesaver for my paper pumpkin leftover pieces. So today I want to show you what I'm going to do with those leftovers. I have taken 5.5 by 8.5 and just a half a sheet of paper, craft paper, and I took the leftover bags and I made a signature by simply folding them in the middle and sewing it down the middle. And I used that on my sewing machine, and I made 3 exact signatures with the craft paper, the bags, and then I made 2 and these bags were in the center. These bags I put on the bottom and one on the top. Before I did that, I cut the ends off of the bottoms of the bags so that I have a pocket here, a blank page here on both sides. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I want this to go on the top, 5, 6 signatures. And the one on the bottom and one on the top is to alleviate some of the bulk right here in the middle of the journal. Now, I'm not sure what I'm going to call this journal at this point, but I'm going to start to put it together using some of these pieces. Remember this pillow box that we did? Remember these pieces? When I saw these pieces in my, here they are, I just have to use those, and those will be great in this journal. So stay with me as we put this journal together and use up these paper pumpkin pieces and leftovers. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pillow boxes and I'm going to cut them in half and glue the ends of it, and that will make 2 little pockets. So now I have my little pockets. I'm going to glue the bottom of the pockets shut. Now I also want to use just a regular glue or wet glue, because I do not want to use Tombow because it never dries out. And so anything I put in this pocket then, it may stick to the end of it down here. So I'm just going to use my wet glue and glue the pockets shut. So here's my blank papers that I'm going to use. So I'm going to cut them down, because this is 4.25 by 5.5. I'm going to cut it down to 4 by 5.25 because I want a border around each one. Okay, this is my inspiration piece, and now I have cut 4 by 5.25 pages and for my signatures, and they will fit, leaving a small border around them. I'm going to make this a birthday journal. I'm also going to be using the butterfly Gala stamp set for embellishments, plus probably the balloons. So now I'm going to take my signatures and I'm going to glue one solid piece on the craft, and I'm going to alternate the colors. I want to make this pretty easy and quick. So let me go ahead and start getting those glued down. I'm just using a wet glue. Any glue you've got works just fine for this. I just like wet glue because it gives me a wiggle room. I'm not going to round the corners Like I said, I want this to be a simple, quick journal. And I said birthday journal. You know, I may not. I may make it an idea journal. I've been needing a new journal to write down my ideas as they come to me, because they never come to me. Well, they come to me while I'm sitting in my craft room too. But always when I'm in my chair, when I'm reading my Bible or something, that's when I get ideas. They just come to me. See, I needed that little wiggle room there. Okay, there's one. And I'm going to finish the others, and then I'll show you after I get them all done. Well, now I've got the color in all of the signatures. Got yellow and orange, and they all kind of alternate so that I've got all of the colors in there. And so now I'm going to start on these pockets right here and make some tags to go in those. And I'm also going to make those out of the colors, a color that will coordinate with the one behind it, which would be, in this case, the yellow. Now these tags are going to be, it looks like 3.5, so I'll make them 3 1/4 by probably 4 inches. 3 1/4 by 4 inches. Okay. Now we've got cards for the insides. So now what I want to do is I want to work on part of the binding, how we're going to get these all stuck together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a strip of paper 5.5 inches, and I'm going to score it where there is 1/4 of an inch in the center with 2 score lines, and then we will fold it and we will glue it to each signature. Now our strips are 5.5 inches by 2 inches. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that our score lines are exactly in the middle. So I'm going to come over 1/2 inch, and then 1/4 inch, and then one more slot. And so I have it in the middle. And it starts, the first one starts at 7/8. So 7/8, skip one and another. Start at 7/8, skip one, and we have exactly 1/4 inch in the center of our paper. And these are going to be our binding strips. So now I'm going to take some decorative scissors, and I'm going to cut the edges of these binding strips. I have had these scissors for ages, but I absolutely love that decal edge that they give. And so I continue to use them. And so I'm going to cut. Now, of course, you can use any of your edgers or in your edger dies. But like I said, I just like this edge. So I'm going to do all of our strips this way. Okay, now we've cut the edges. So now I'm going to score. I've already got them scored. I'm going to fold and crease on the score line at the 1 1/4 inch. And then when we put it on, it will give us a gusset to give us some room to put things in our pockets. Now we're going to want to use some real aggressive tape or adhesive right here so it will not come apart. Okay, now we've got our signatures in order. I have put this center bag on this one. It was at the top on this one, the center on the next two, and then the bottom on this last cream-colored stock. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put them together. And we're going to glue them like this on the score line. But if you'll notice, as the score line, there's a little hump there, and we want to make sure that we get on this side of the score line. We don't want to cover that score line, and we're going to glue that on. Now I'm going to use some real aggressive score tape, and it's a 1/2 inch score tape. And I am going to double it up right along that score line. And I'm going to put 2 rows of it, one right along the edge of that decal cutting. I want to get as close to that as I can. And then I want to add my signature. I think I'll lay it down so I can see the edge and the additional edge. And that's going to hold very well. So now let's do the other side. And now to add the next signature. Again, we're going to get as close as to that score line as we can. We also want to make sure that this is aligned at these corners. And that puts our signatures together. And that is the first 2. Now we're going to continue on. And that ties our signatures together. So now we have the insides of our book. Now we're going to do basically the same thing on the outside for the cover. But we'll get to that after we do a little something more in here. Remember these pieces that I punched the tags out of? We're going to take these and we're going to cut them. We're going to cut them apart. And we're going to decorate the insides and make a border. Now I've got all the little strips cut apart, but I'm going to save these little cross pieces because I may use those in the decoration of the journal on the inside. Now, there are the inside of those pieces. This is the end, and these were the insides. And if you can see, there's a little border on this side, and there is none on that side. I don't know if you can see it very well. But as long as you keep these 2 together on a page, they will look just fine. And no one probably will notice that there's a little white stripe on the edge. And there was just enough of these cross pieces to do on each bridge, and one for the cover and one for the back. So let's glue those down. Now we've got all our little borders glued in the inside. And next I want to add this little pocket. However, I would really like to have some decorative paper behind it, some printed paper. And so I'm going to take my butterfly Gala and I'm going to make some designer series paper. Now to make my stamp of my designer series paper, I'm going to take my stamp and I'm going to stamp a lot of the butterflies in black all over this paper. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to do a row of each style. And I want to clean those off. Now I have stamped a whole page of butterflies, which I'm going to color them with some of the colors that we're using, but I want this to dry really good so that when I can use my dauber to put color on it, it will not bleed. Now I said that this was going to be a designer series paper. This is going to be my embellishments. Now I'm going to try to make some designer series paper. Now, using the colors of our books, I'm going to take some sponge. I'm going to start with the lighter colors, which is the crushed curry, the crumb cake, the pistachio pudding. So I'm going to start with the crushed curry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I think that fits right on there like that. Cut my sponge off. And I'm just going to add color. And I try to do it in threes, in triangles. So we have 3 spots. Now I'm going to add the next color. Which would be the crumb cake. So I'm going to start. See, I think I want more. Well, let's do a crumb cake. Let's start with crumb cake. And that is our designer series paper. And now we want to go ahead, I believe these are fully dry, so we want to go ahead and put some color to them as well. Now I think I've got them colored the way that I want to color them. So now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to punch them out with my butterfly punch. And now we have all our little butterflies cut out for our embellishments. It just amazes me how pretty they are after you get them cut out. So let's go back to our designer series paper. Now we know that this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so on these pages where we want to put these pockets, we want to put some of this background paper on these blank pages. So this is 4, and that's probably 3/4. So let me measure that to be on the safe side. So it's actually about 3 1/4 or 3 5/8 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to, I would like that edge to show. So I'm going to make it probably 3 1/4 by 5. And so I'm going to cut my paper to 3 1/4 by 5. And that probably could have been a little longer, so it really needed to be 5 1/4. So I'm going to recut that. And I like that a lot better. And we've got more butterflies. You can see more butterflies on our paper. So let's glue that down. I'm not going to do any rounded corners on this. I'm just liking the primary colors. And the ease of putting it together. Now I could turn that this way, and that would wouldn't cover that butterfly. And I like the orange butterfly better. So I'm going to stick, and you know this is all preference. If you were doing this, you might do it a little different. Now what I want to do is I want to put a little something across here, across our pocket. So I've got some of the baker's twine that is leftovers. And that's what this is all about. It's using up the leftovers from our paper pumpkins. So I'm going to wrap that twice. I'm going to tie it in a knot. That was my sister. She was calling me today. Now this, because of that baker's twine, I'm going to have to put some dimensionals on the back of this to raise it up from that baker's twine. Now I have these little bitty squares, and I think they'll work just fine for this. But I always like to use enough of them to where it doesn't allow the center to bow in. Well, I have got a big mess going on here. I'm going to have to stop and clean up. Because I have no place to put anything. I'm going to put that right in the center of this designer paper. And I'm going to add my butterfly. I'm going to fold the butterfly. And I had this idea. Again, this is leftover paper pumpkin. But I thought I would pull this up and just tie it in a little knot. And make this thread his antenna. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but let's see. And I want to cut it quite close. And there, it does look like his little head and his little antenna. And now we want to put him on there. Again, I think I'll have to use a dimensional. One of these little ones are working perfect. Slide it under that thread. Well, that's cute. So now let's see about working on the other side. Now we're going to need something here. But I'm happy with that. So after we get our tags in there, where's one of my tags? I think I'll have two, actually I think I'll have two of these tags. Or one this color, and then maybe, and this won't work because it's too small, but maybe one of the other colors. So we're going to go ahead and call that page Pretty Done. And we may add something later, but we'll call that one Pretty Done right now.